Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shad and the Resman. I'm Shad,
And I'm the Resman.
and we're also joined by, yet again, Awesombenboy711, aka Benji.
Thanks for
Say
watching.
something
See you guys
cool.
later.
Yeah, fuck you.
Bro, we just started, bro.
We just started, you fucking
Oh
asshole.
my goodness.
Anyways, so from that, we're going to go ahead and go straight into the topic. The topic for today is another movie review. This is a movie that all three of us saw as of this recording yesterday. Today is the 23rd of April. This will probably be coming out next month. So this should be coming out right around the beginning of May. We're going to be talking about Sinners, the new Ryan Coogler film starring Michael B. Jordan and Dalton. What was his name? Preacher.
We're talking about the main character.
Yeah, the main character.
Both Smoke and Stack.
No. The other actor.
Oh, the
Sammy.
Miles Caden.
Miles Caden. Yeah, starring
Yeah.
Miles. It's really starring Miles Caden, but of course the big draw is the fact that you do have Michael B. Jordan in this movie. So we're gonna go ahead and do it the same way we did Minecraft. We're gonna go ahead and talk about our favorite parts non-spoiler wise, and we're just gonna give it like a brief synopsis of the film. Aside from that, afterwards we're gonna go ahead and go straight into spoilers. But I think that we're all in agreement on this. Hands down, probably one of our favorite films of the year so far.
Yeah. What about you, Benji?
Hands down, probably one of our favorite films of the year so far.
Just so you guys know, these guys woke me up at the crack of dawn. And they want me to be having full
Crack of dawn. It's 11 o'clock. Fuck off.
Listen,
Rising
it
star.
isn't the crack of dawn. It's the ass crack of dawn. Okay, let's.
But no, Sinners
The
is
sign
such a
is-
fun. It's such a fun movie. Like
Oh,
I was
hands down,
so
yeah.
excited
Yeah.
for it. Like I didn't know
Like-
what it was until I got a little bit of detail in it, and then when I went to go see it, I was so glad I went to go see Sinners.
I honestly was very happy that I went in mostly blind. I did not know anything aside from the time period it was set in, aside from the fact that vampires were included, and the fact that it was a Ryan Coogler film and had Michael B. Jordan in it. I had no other ideas about this movie. Also Haley Steinfeld's in this movie as well. Completely blanked out on that, my bad. But aside from that, I had no idea what else was going to go on with this film, and was very, very, very pleasantly surprised. I was lucky enough to only hear a couple good words of mouth from this, from Jeremy Johns and 3C Films. If you guys don't know them, be sure to check them out on YouTube, as well as us. Obviously you wouldn't hear us if you weren't checking us out. But from that, a lot of people are saying that this is a really, really good film. I've been hearing a lot of good positive buzz from it. And the problem with that is I tend to go into films, if I wait too long, I tend to go in with higher and higher expectations. And that's part of the problem. So I'm very glad that I went in mostly blind, just going off a positive word of mouth and like a few details that I knew.
I knew nothing about it when I went in. In fact, I looked up. Right before we went into the theater room. That was when that was the first time I looked up who was directing it. Like that's the first time I had zero expectation going into the movie. So
Yeah, and I would say you walked out very pleasantly surprised.
yeah.
Yeah. Benji is also my fellow horror nut here. Very Dusk Till Dawn-esque a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that. After we walking at the theater, we were saying like this movie really gives me like Oh Brother Rod that went dark, but no, this is
Yeah.
cross
Meets
with Dust Till Dawn.
Till Dawn, yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of element of, at least in like tonal shift, I would argue, because
Definitely tonal shift.
for aside from like the opening, like when the movie actually finally gets started, you mostly kind of forget about that, and it really gets you invested in these two twin brothers played by Michael B. Jordan, Smoke and Stack, the Smokestack twins. They're really just trying to open up this club. There's this juke joint, as they call it, and you get really, really invested in that, and then like, what is it, maybe hour and a half in, vampires, and it's like, oh shit, I completely forgot about that, and it like introduces them, gets you an idea of what they're coming in, and then lo and behold, it eventually just unravels. As I was talking with Dalton about it, it snowballs into just, okay, that's one problem, that's another problem, that's another problem, that's an oh shit, and it just went from there. So I would
Until
argue,
it completely just falls off the cliff at the
yeah,
very end.
yeah, pretty
So
much. High praise for this movie. This is a very well done vampire movie. Even if you go in with no expectations of vampires, you're still gonna walk out pretty okay with this. Now, of course, if you can't handle, I wouldn't even say this is like incredibly gory. I would say there's some horrifying stuff in it, but like nothing like outright scary. If you've seen a vampire movie before, or hell, a vampire show that was bloody, like if you watch True Blood, you should have no issue with this show or with this movie. And if you've watched From Dusk Till Dawn, you're definitely not going to have an issue with this movie. Or if you're just okay with gore, I would argue it's gory, but it doesn't really get gory until like the end. And that's when it's just an all-out bloodbath, which is a lot of fun. I honestly, there was a couple scenes where I was like, I could literally start playing the club music from Blade. Just do. I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty cool. And there's a look that when one of the twins, when something happens to them and they're wearing sunglasses, or like there's a look with their eyes and the mustache. I'm like, holy shit. Michael B. Jordan should have been fucking Blade. If he wasn't already Killmonger, he would have been a great Blade.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. I would have killed for that. And I never even thought about it, honestly. But definitely really, really good performances from the entire cast. Hands down, one of the most pleasant surprises. This is his first movie. What was his name again? Dalton?
it was Miles Caton.
Miles
Sam,
Caden. Yeah, as Satan. Or as
His nickname is
as Preacher Boy.
Preacher Boy.
Yeah.
That's his nickname.
Miles Caden. Yeah, Miles Caden is Sammy.
Or
Yeah.
Sammy, not
Yeah.
Satan.
I said Satan. I said Satan. No. You said Sammy. I said Satan because I was like, yeah.
Or you're getting me all messed up in the head now.
It's okay, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
we'll take the screws out eventually.
Honestly, I know that Michael B. Jordan is in quite a few films this year. I know he's in like a sports film coming up.
That's not him. That was
some other.
that was Marlon Wayans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
He
new
was in
Jordan.
something else.
White chicks.
He's Marlon Wayans was. He's talking about Michael B. Jordan. I don't know what else Michael B. Jordan's gonna be in this
No, I
this
feel
year.
like he was in either sports or fighting.
He was in
film.
Creed.
Well, they're not
he
making
was in
another
that
Creed
one.
movie so far. They haven't announced
Yeah.
it. They did Creed 3. That came out a couple of years ago.
I know that there's got to be some other movie he's in.
Well, he's been in plenty of other
this
movies.
year.
Not this year, though. Not so far, at least. I can't think of anything off the top of my head
Or
that
at
he's
least
going
some
to be
coming
in.
out. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. He did a really, really good job, though. Playing twins. And the funny thing is like, he's not playing them the same. They're very vastly different twins. And they're also both more or less, like, I would argue he kind of nailed the duality of roles whenever he played Killmonger, because he can go from being genuinely intimidating to just kind of cocky. And he does that incredibly well with this. Like, he does the strong stoic type, and then he also does the I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want, devil may care, that kind of guy. And that's what both of the brothers are. They're both two completely different characters, and you have no issue telling them apart, especially with what happens to one of them. But even before that, it wasn't just the wardrobe. It was like the way they talk, the way that they acted, the way, it was just so vastly different. And it's from the same performer. Like, hands down, some of the best twin acting I've ever seen in a while.
Ever since Tom Hardy. Tom
Yeah,
Hardy's
yeah, it was Tom Hardy. Yeah, Tom Hardy and
Legend.
Legend. Yeah, I would argue that was another one that was so drastically different. But granted, that one was so drastically different to where I think they did it on purpose, because they were just beyond drastically different. These two brothers, like, you could tell they were brothers. Like, I don't know. I would think that Tom Hardy played it a little bit more over the top with the other character, the other brother, the one that was supposed to be the crazier one, whereas Michael B. Jordan played him a little bit more subtly. You could tell which one's the more stoic, he's going to get the job done, and the other one's like, okay, I can talk to these people, and that, I think that's what the difference between Smoke and Stack is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like how he goes through basically the nuances. I like how he acts out the subtle nuances in both of those brothers. Like he doesn't overtly do it. Like what you said,
It's very subtle, but you
and
can
I
tell.
feel like he does explore that a little bit in his acting.
Oh,
I
hands
do
down.
enjoy that.
Yeah.
So
But Caden, what a phenomenal performance for a first time movie, and to arguably be the main character. Like obviously, a lot of people they think, oh, it's going to be about these two brothers, and it is. But this kid, Sammy, he is kind of the focal point. He's Dalton, because you got this on my brain. He's the narrator more or less of this movie. He's the person who sees everything, kinda. And from that, you could argue that this was just entirely from his memory, and or what he would have been told or what he would have heard. And from that, I would say that this is arguably his movie. It is Michael B. Jordan's movie. Don't get me wrong. He is definitely the main focal point, the main selling point. But I would argue that Miles Caden did a phenomenal job as our lead character, Sammy.
I wonder if he was
So,
actually singing and playing guitar rather than
He
doing
was.
dubs over.
He was at least singing. I don't know about the guitar, but that was I looked it up on the soundtrack. That's actually him singing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I think almost all any of the cast that sings, I think it is them singing. So.
and the same with dancers and all that stuff. I know that Michael B. Jordan had one stunt double, like
Yeah.
at least one, but for most of the film, it was just him acting the two different characters out, which I thought was.
Well,
Really
you have to have a
interesting
stand-in
because-
if you're gonna do twins on a physical set. You have to have a stand-in. But
I thought
I
they
get
did
that.
very well.
Yeah,
So-
and the effects were actually really done well too. Like there was a couple points towards the beginning that I was like, okay, I can kind of tell. Like, but then it eventually got to the point where I couldn't tell the difference. Like genuinely. Again, aside from like, anytime that they were standing together, there was little to no difference from what I gathered. As far as like, you can't tell where the CG is and where the CG isn't. Unlike other films that have tried that before. Just using a split screen. I think The Parent Trap was one of the first ones that did that. The original Disney movie. Both of them actually, both versions. The one with Lindsay Lohan and the one that came out in the 70s.
I think so.
I want to say it was the 70s. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was the
first one.
70s.
The original one.
Yeah, the original. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that this was very well done. Arguably along the lines. Now, a lot of people you're gonna have to hear me out on this. Arguably as good as The Flash that came out a couple years ago. Now, yes, I know the effects in that movie are not the greatest, but when it comes down to the two berries, that is some of the most seamless fucking shit I have ever seen as far as like CG and having the same two different characters played by the same actor. And yeah, I think that this is damn near seamless. There's a couple points where I could tell, but that's just because like my eyes, I can train my eyes to look at it as like, okay, you're kind of facing away, so we don't have to worry about the effect as much anymore. Cool. So
I don't know. I think Legend is so much better than that because there were times where the Cray brothers would actually like hug and like pat each other on the shoulder, on the leg. There's literally one scene where they're like talking to each other side by side, and obviously you can tell, not tell, but obviously if you're an editor or a filmmaker, you're aware that there's like a split masking in between. But there's a moment where one Cray twin reaches over and like pats his leg, and it's like, damn, like, and there's like no visual key that lets you know that it's special effects, that it looks legitimate. So I disagree with the whole Barry thing. I think Legend did a whole lot better with making one actor
yes,
twins.
I agree with that, but you got to remember the reason why I brought up The Flash is A, that's more recent. B, that is actually the best effect out of the entire movie. Let's be perfectly honest. That's the best effect out of the entire movie, aside from making Ezra Bridger actually seem like a decent human being. Or sorry, did I say Ezra Bridger? I meant Ezra Miller. My bad. But yeah, aside from that, I agree. Legend ultimately did it better than The Flash, but I'm just thinking of like recent wise that have had two different characters played by the same actor. I would argue that The Flash did a pretty good job. Yeah. Legend also is like, what, 10 years old now?
Something like that.
Yeah, so there's it's weird that we've had a lot of like really good CG about 10 to 15 years ago, and then we have stuff that came out today and it looks terrible.
We've had CG. We've had good CG ever since early 2000s, except people just gotten lazy.
Yeah, or they've tried to rush it.
Rushing it or just being lazy for some reason.
Yep. But that being said, the CG in this film is actually really, really well done. I don't think they rushed anything. I think that they did a really good job. I do love the design of the vampires, the way that their eyes can turn to a different color and it has that red tint to it. I thought that was done incredibly well. This version of vampires was interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like wholly unique. There are definitely films that I can think of that did something similar with vampires, but definitely a very fun and unique take to going into vampires. And vampires aren't the only thing that they like really explain as mystical in this world. So that is definitely something for sure. Any other non-spoiler thoughts on this?
I mean, everything I have to say is spoiler.
Yeah,
so
a lot of what I have to say is spoiler as well. The
it's
music.
all-
The music is so well
all
done.
up in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how they use the music to create tense moments.
Yes.
Like it's like a hint. You're like, okay, like there's clearly a hint in that, and then it kind of like eases a little bit with the with one of the brothers. I think it was with Smoke. When he interacts with people, like there's a clear tense moment in there, and then it kind of eases. But that the tension doesn't ease completely.
Right.
With Stack, it there's more of a release and you feel more at ease with Stack just because he's more of a wholesome character,
right?
And that's exactly what you want to feel when you're around Stack. But with the way Smoke is, that isn't necessarily the kind of character they want to portray him. Which when we get into spoilers, I'll kind of explain my thoughts on how what the two characters and what kind of roles they play in the overarching plot of the movie. So
right.
I think with the entire soundtrack, there was really a lot of like that isn't a musical part. Mm-hmm. There was really like a lot of like something's gonna go wrong here because since it takes place like in where does it take? Is like Mississippi, the 30s Mississippi.
I believe it's either Mississippi or Alabama. I'm not entirely certain.
It was a state that started with an M, Missouri or Mississippi, one of the two.
It might have been Missouri actually.
Yeah,
they weren't really in like swamplands. Well, no, they kind of were. So maybe it might have been Mississippi. I'm not entirely sure.
But this isn't a spoiler, but the music has to do with the blues. And
yes.
So there's a lot
It's very
of,
blues heavy.
Yes, there's a lot of blues, especially just the basic soundtrack where they're not playing music. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of blues going on.
A lot of bluegrass, a lot of blues, a lot of banjo, a lot of old string guitar.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Very well done on the music side of things.
And then, out of nowhere, the soundtrack would sound like a nice bluesy riff, and then it would just turn into like they would start playing like dissonant chords where it just sounds eerie and creepy and messed up. Like like you can tell something is going to happen. Something is going to go wrong.
Yeah, this is a film that definitely it doesn't like hide its intentions necessarily. With again, like I mentioned with the opening. The opening is essentially the end of the movie, more or less. It does like a whole 1 day earlier deal. Mm-hmm. And I don't hate that. That's actually not a bad deal. But it works for the story, but it definitely does kind of like, okay, so at least we know one character survives, which I was like, okay, if it wasn't for that, I would have probably been a little bit more, scared for this person, I guess. I don't know. That's like a nitpick, if anything. But, and I guess that's technically a spoiler. I don't necessarily think that's a spoiler. It's the first, 5 minutes of the movie.
Well, I mean, it's like, it's a good way to bring in an audience, to show what...
aftermath
of what happened with this character, and then start with that and be like, whoa, okay, now I need to see what happened here.
Exactly. It is a good hook to get everybody hooked in. And that, I would argue, has the most jump scares, which I was like, I didn't hate it. When I say jump scares, this is not a Blumhouse PG-13
no.
goddamn... No. No, I would argue this film more, tries to fuck with your head more than anything. What would I do in this situation?
It's never
that's, the more terrifying aspect.
Yeah, it's never like, ooh, gotcha. It's more like...
Yeah.
It's literally just out of nowhere. You're literally not... there's not even, a premise to, or you don't even expect it. Because I gotta admit, 2 of them really got me good.
There was a couple that did get me really,
Yeah.
really well done. You're talking about towards the beginning, or are you talking about later
beginning.
on in the movie? The beginning, yeah. 2 of them did get me okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I wasn't expecting that this early. And then there aren't really that many other jump scares after that.
Don't get me wrong, I didn't flip my popcorn, but like it's like it's
Yeah.
my heart jumped.
It's
my
like,
heart
oh
definitely
shit,
jumped.
you know, yeah, like you like tense up.
Oh,
You know, it's like, oh shit,
damn,
yeah,
that.
damn, yeah, it's yeah. So I would argue that. Dalton, did you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think what you're really talking about, like in the middle, there's this. Hopefully, this isn't a spoiler, but they do transition. They change up the music a little bit.
Yes, that
And,
is like one of my favorite sequences in
Yeah.
a movie in a long time. That is a really well done sequence, and it's a
You- you
one or
essen-
two.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
You essentially have, there's a whole folklore to it. That like the whole movie is based off of a folklore. I don't know if the folklore is actually believed or not. It's not based off a true story. I know that, but
No,
there are
well, of
true
course not.
elements, historical elements in it. But
Yeah.
in the middle, it basically there's this song. I think the song is called. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Seance. I don't know if that's the right word or
Oh,
how you pronounce
seance.
it, but-
That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
seance.
No, that's not it. That the song is called. You're talking about the Sammy sequence.
The big
In the,
sequence.
in the-
Yes,
yeah,
and-
Okay, so that and that's shown in the trailers a little bit, but it doesn't show you exactly what's going on. The Somebody Take Me, that one. Yeah, that is called I Lied to You, because that's the name of the song that he was singing. But yes, I know what you're talking about. There's that element to it, and I guess it's now as good a time as any to go into spoilers. We talked about this spoiler free for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
So
And so I'd say, kind of transitioning into the spoilers, that I really liked how they brought in that transition where you get these different eras of
yes,
these characters from different eras, different cultures and traditions just get lumped in there, and then now you have like the
past, present, and the
African
future. Yes, and
dressed
I
up,
thought
they're
that
all
was well
dancing in
done.
their way. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool way of doing things.
Yeah.
And you have the electronic dance music and that
The
stuff. And actually
EDM,
one of
yeah.
there's actually a really famous artist, Ludwig, I think is his
Ludwig
name.
Göransson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
was in
he's
there,
a
too.
very good music producer. Yes.
Ludwig
So-
Göransson, he's actually like known for like newer soundtracks.
He's hands down becoming one of my favorite music composers.
Okay,
Because he did
yeah.
the Mandalorian, he did Book of Boba Fett. He's done a lot of Ryan Coogler films. Like I know he did Creed. I know he did Black Panther, if I'm not mistaken. Like there's a lot of really good tracks under his belt, and he does a really, really good job. He also did the music for this movie as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and based off what I'm reading here, the composition is deeply rooted in the 1930s Delta blues. That's a new term that I've heard.
Delta blues,
Delta blues,
yeah, that was
yeah.
that's a region specific thing. So yeah,
So,
think
But,
of not Sammy Davis Jr. Who's the one that reportedly sold his soul? That blues singer. It was like a lot of people have interpreted it because he just
Tommy-
disappeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, Tommy something. He was in Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Oh
yeah. That was a real musician. I think he was the one who actually sold his soul to the devil to play the guitar.
Yeah, well, there's been countless musicians that
yeah,
have said they've
like,
sold their
in-
soul,
yeah,
but like
in the
he's one of the
blues
most famous
history.
ones because he kind of
Yeah.
helped. He'll kind of pioneer the blues a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it's Tommy something. Yeah,
It's Tommy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I can't remember his last name, but yeah, that's one of I was about to say Tommy Jarvis. No. But he I would say it's very, very similar to that. If you know what Delta Blues is, then you pretty much know the soundtrack to this movie, and it's done incredibly well. Very good rhythm, very good guitar, very good. There's a little bit of harmonica in there as well. There's very good like stomping to the rhythm, which is done really, really well. I do love I Lied to You. That's a really, really well done sequence. I do like the song. I would have liked I get the whole purpose behind it, but I would have loved just the actual song by itself without all the different, like I would like a separate version where like you have the combination one, but then you have the different one where it's just his song. Not what he's hearing, but what exactly what he's playing. And in that regard, I think Pale Pale Moon is a far better song. So it's not my favorite sequence. Hands down, I Lied to You is my favorite sequence. But that my favorite song is Pale Pale Moon. That is just one of those. It's right before shit goes down. It's right before really a lot of people start turning into vampires. It ultimately does a really good job. Also, I love the fact that a lot of like where did this vampire come from? Obviously, he came from Ireland because he sings "Rocky Road to Dublin." But like I love that you don't really learn his backstory. You don't know why the Native Americans, the Cherokee or whatever they were chasing him. You don't really learn much of anything. He just kind of appears in the movie and causes shit to go down. And
Well, they're
so,
obviously vampire hunters because
well,
they know who he
obviously,
is.
yeah.
But I feel like there's something deeper to that too. Like, of course, we're talking about vampires and that stuff, but
Yeah.
with the Indians and
Well,
this guy that
Indians
comes
have
out
their
of-
own versions of vampires as well. Almost every folklore has some
Every
form.
culture will have
Yeah.
a different type of
Yeah.
vampire.
It's like dragons. Every tradition, every
Yeah.
religion
Every
has
culture has
dragons,
some. Yeah,
basically.
every culture has some form of dragons.
But I thought there was something to that too, because he wasn't what I would consider to be like the traditional vampire, so to speak, like, you know, what you get in, like, oh, there's this guy laying in a coffin and he only comes out at night, and then he sucks your blood. Like, he isn't that. I feel like he was more of what some would describe as like the devil. Like, they said
That
it,
was
like,
kind
he's
of
the
what they
devil,
were. That's what they
basically.
were alluding to. He's a trickster. Is essentially what he is. He's tricking you into joining him, and they almost have like a hive mind mentality, which is
That's
unique.
new to me. That's new.
Yeah, that's
definitely new. I
new.
haven't seen anything
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only
Well,
other thing that came close to that was Priest. Priest had a hive like, but they were more animalistic vampires. Than
Yeah,
anything.
but with
Yeah.
Sinners, in a hive like mindset, every time he got hurt, they felt
they
it
got
too.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they felt it, and then
Yeah.
it would dwindle them, and like that's really new. I have never actually seen that before, and I thought that was pretty
that
cool.
was an interesting one. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's the one who turned them that feels if he feels pain, they all
Uh-huh.
feel pain. I thought that was done really
Right.
well, but they're all still their own person too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy part. It's just like there's points where they just can't help themselves.
It is very. They made it into a very cultish.
Yes.
Like,
They did,
group of vampires, and that's what I thought was also interesting, was that it was a cult. Actually, this is something that I'm actually getting into. I have a few friends that are into these radical ideas. I'm not going to get into them; they're controversial. But I was studying how these radical ideas spread and why they spread, and it's because people are attracted to radical ideas, which I think is somewhat of a theme in the movie, like very hidden. Like, there's a very hidden theme of radicalism in the movie. That's something I didn't ever plan on talking about in this podcast, but that was just something that popped up. It's like, oh, like you get this idea of truth blended in with this overarching lie, and then that's how you get people hooked in, and and then all of a sudden it's like that again, that hive mind cult, like cultish group, basically. So
Yeah, so see, I was trying to like see the also meaning, like not radical, but more of like a man's sin, because the title's called Sinner. So the entire time I was trying to see
of
like
course.
what's the what's the sin. Of course, the brothers, they deal with their own sins of the past, where like they hit it and quit it, and then one abandon his wife after his son died, and the other one he like I said, he hit it and quit it,
Pretty much.
and
Yeah.
and then like
Well,
really,
no, he pushed her away because he cared about her too deeply.
I guess yeah.
That's
so,
what ultimately happened. Yeah.
And again, and
So he's
then,
like, look, you can't be safe with me, so I needed to push you away.
they have sins of the past, and they have their own sins of like pride and wrath. But then, of course, but I think the vampires are also supposed to represent what happens when you don't deal with your sins. They come back and they hurt you and they hurt everyone around you.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
I
You
think
know,
that was a big thing
man,
for sure.
I mean, I also have something to say about that too, because you actually hit on something I was thinking about as well, and that is that it ends up that the brother who doesn't deal with the sin, the people that he's associated with, every one of them, including himself, becomes a vampire, like that
Yeah.
cult like mentality. Like, they all get lumped into it, but the guy who's more wholesome, who actually has dealt with the sin better than this other guy, than than Smoke. Not only does he end up dying, like as in he doesn't turn into a vampire, and his the woman he had an affair with doesn't turn into a vampire, but less people end up turning into vampires and actually getting hurt. And so it's like it just shows that
Smoke didn't
Sin
have an affair.
just
You're thinking Stack. Stack's the one that became
Well-
a vampire. Smoke didn't have an affair. He had a wife.
well, yeah, wife.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
But essentially, it goes to show that sin ends up hurting more people when you don't deal with it than when you deal with sin, less people get affected by it.
I agree with
And
that.
so,
Yeah, there is a religious aspect to it. Now, don't go away and take that. We're saying, oh, it's a religious movie. It
It's
clearly
really-
isn't.
It's not. It's really
It's
not.
not. It's just they, for the time period that it's set in, for where it's set in, for the group of people that it tends to follow, for it being set in, religion played a huge
It's-
aspect
it's
in
the
every
undertone of the
single
film.
one of those.
Yeah.
It is. This definitely has religious undertones as far as what its core themes is. On top of the fact that it's just called Sinners.
It's called Sinners,
Which,
yeah. Right.
yeah, it's called Sinners. So, you definitely have the sins of the past. Especially for one, Smoke. They reveal that Smoke killed his and Stack's dad, because Stack or their dad would kill, or would not kill, but he would beat on Smoke. And that was a really, I kind of saw it coming, but I didn't think about it. Of course, after everything happened, like with the big climax in the juke joint, the fact that the guitar that they gave Sammy, Stack tells him it's this famous guitar player, and that they won it off him. And Smoke eventually tells him, "Oh, that damn liar, that was our dad's guitar." And I was like, "Oh, that
I
was
was like, damn.
that was actually kind of."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that kind of sucks." That explains why he was like, "Hey, when you get home, go ahead and bury that." And that was very, very well done. I loved the fact that he was very clearly dying, and he sees his wife and his baby son, which I thought was really done well. Shall we go from something wholesome to talking about something that was a little bit disgusting?
So, but
Go for it.
just to get this clear, Smoke was the wholesome guy, right?
Smoke
If
was
I'm
the
not-
one that made it to the end without becoming a vampire, but he
Okay,
ultimately
okay.
he got shot by KKK.
Oh,
So,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That
Smoke was the
that part
last
I was a
surviving brother that didn't become a vampire.
little-
Right.
Smoke
Stacks-
was Elijah. It's my understanding.
Yes, and
Because they were-
Elias was, Elias was Stack, or I think that was the other way around. But anyways, yeah. So Smoke's the one that ultimately lives till he dies. Stack is the one that dies first.
Smoke is the one who
right.
can't roll a cigarette himself.
Yeah, he has
I-
the hand
yeah.
thing,
Yeah, he has like
which I think was I don't think that was Parkinson's. I think that was
No, I think
it was
maybe
just
like-
supposed to be like shell shock,
shell
because they
shock.
said that
That's
they
I
went
thought that was
they
just
went.
fear. I
No,
thought that
it
was
was.
just
They
adrenaline
said
just shaking him.
no,
I
because
thought-
he was
I
even
thought
doing
was
it at the
two
beginning too.
first. I thought it was
Yeah.
two, like he was getting adrenaline rush. But I think it's because they did mention that they both fought in like World War One. It's like, remember the German trenches? I'm like, oh, okay, so these. So he said he was a soldier, and I thought he was just saying that to sound gangster. But no, he was actually an enlisted man.
They both
during
were.
World War One. Yeah, they both were enlisted men in World War One. So I think it was actually shell shock. That's why he gets his brother to roll his cigarette for him.
And I think that's also why they have the caps on their teeth.
I thought only Stack had. I think only Stack had. The
No,
cap on his teeth.
no, Smoke had him too. He had him on the opposite side.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice. I didn't see
Yeah.
it. It was easily.
Well,
noticeable
there was a
on
point where he
Stack.
smiled at the end, and you saw it on the opposite end. Like anytime, because you got to remember, Smoke didn't smile much.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever he did smile, you saw it on the side of him. So I was like, oh, that was kind of a cool detail that you don't really pick up unless you're like picking up on it. But shall we talk about the disgusting scene?
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
Before, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I liked that they did was that they basically they took the sins that weren't dealt with amongst these two characters, and it was clear that once they became vampires, that they brought it on themselves because of the sins they weren't dealt with. And so, like with
Could be it.
with Les, basically the affair, they went
With
into a room.
Stack, yeah.
Yeah, with Stack, they went into a room.
Him and Mary.
And he was, but by themselves, they're having sex, and then boom, he just ends up just turning into a vampire, and it's like, yeah,
Well, that's 'cause she
I-
killed
I
him.
saw that coming. It makes sense. That makes sense.
I knew
Yeah.
he was going to die mostly because of the trailers. The trailers did kind of give that away. It's like, hey, why don't you let me out of here? And like he's like holding his head on the door. I'm like, okay, so something happens to him. I didn't know which character was going to be, but I knew it was going to be one of the twins. And I mean, I saw that coming as well because I'm like, oh, thematic element. wouldn't it be sad if one of the twins died and then you have an evil twin? Like, I was like, okay, I kind of saw that coming. I was like, just from a very simple standpoint. But what they do with it is done really well. There's a point where Smoke could kill Stack as a vampire. And they show, he's like, hey, I'm glad it's you that killed me. You always try to protect me. And he's, or you always did, or whatever. He's like, I always try to protect you. And he's like, you always did. And then it cuts away. I'm like, okay. So I completely blanked on it. I was like, okay, what's going on with Sammy? And then you realize there is a mid or like after credit scene, mid credit scene, whatever you want to call it. And
Epilogue.
it's people are like, oh, it could be leaning towards a sequel or broadening the world, or it could be a cinematic universe. I'm like, no, I think it's just a good way to wrap it up. I think it's a good bookend, and it shows that both Mary and Smoke survived. They're still vampires, and it like cuts to, I believe, modern day, where Sammy's an old man,
like 70s, because
oh
Stack was all
yeah,
dressed
yeah.
in like African pride, Kunta Kinte like style.
No, it was the 90s.
Is it the 90s?
It was the 90s.
70s?
Yeah, they jumped up to the 90s, because you got to remember this is in the 30s. Sammy would have been in his teens, so by the 50s or by the 70s he would only be in his 60s.
Well, yeah, but it's okay. 90 sounds about right. Yeah, because he was
Yeah, so 90s.
Yeah, he was
he's
wearing,
right
like,
around
that
this.
Will
He's like he's
Smith
about to
looking-
die.
Yeah, he has like that Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stack had that Will Smith look.
Yeah.
Mary, she was dressed all in leather. Had the
Yeah.
greasy long back hair kind of thing for most.
We also
90s
remember in the
women.
90s it was really cool to have that 50s esque like retro kind of feel.
Well, talk about full circle.
And for the record, some
Yeah.
some interesting fact is that at the very end, the older gentleman that plays
Sammy.
Sammy. Yeah, I was about to say Preacher Boy. Is Buddy Guy, who's an actual blues music.
Oh,
I thought he
Buddy
looked
Guy.
familiar.
Okay,
Yeah,
feel
I
like
thought
Buddy
he
Guy
looked
looked
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he looked familiar. I'd known that name for a long time. At least ever since I've known about blues. So that's awesome. That's good that they got him, and he did a really good job. He's like, for everything I've seen, I love his final line, which was, hey, I may wake up once a week paralyzed from what happened that night, but I think everything that happened before that was the best day of my life. And he asked Stack, he's like, was that yours? And he's like, yeah, I mean, it was the one day I ever truly felt free. It was the last time I saw my brother, last time I saw the sunrise.
And I
And
think that
like,
was.
I truly felt free.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I think that was. What's the word? That was actually heartfelt. Like it was actually.
Oh yeah.
Like he meant it. Like Stack
Yeah.
meant it. You can even see it in Mary's face. Like, oh, I missed it too.
Yeah.
That was a good time for me too. It was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like so they kind of really demonstered
Yeah.
the monsters, and I was like, okay, that's.
Well, I mean, granted, they were human
people-
before they were monsters.
humans
Yeah.
once, so they still remember
Yeah.
their human lives.
And I love the
Yeah.
fact that he offers. He's like, look, Smoke let me live so long as I never went after you. And I was like, all right, that's that makes sense. And he goes, you're about to die. Yeah, I was like, okay. He's like, I guess I was the one guy he couldn't kill. I'm like, yeah, I mean that makes sense. That explains
does
why they
make
cut
sense,
away. Yeah, it's a good way to bookend. I would agree, because it's like, okay, well, we never saw Stack die, so what's going on? That kind of thing. But from that, I mean, like, yeah, go
I
ahead.
thought it was also wholesome that they didn't actually kill him when they hugged
Oh,
each other. Like,
yeah.
That would have been
Yeah.
a perfect moment. Just be like, boom, you're done. But no, he stuck to his word. I'm like, bro.
Well,
I
he
would've
said
been
he was gonna
petrified.
die anyway. He's like, hey, you're getting close to dying. Like after he sniffed him, he's like, you're getting close to death.
And
He's like, I can make it stop. You
Yeah,
know,
he
I was like, oh,
offered.
okay.
Yeah,
He's like,
offered
I
to,
can make it
turn
stop if you want. And he's like, no, I think I've seen enough of this life. And I was like, oh, that was kind of nice.
Okay.
I also feel like there's some biblical element in that too. Just being like, there's just this false hope in this and an eternal life. Hey,
Yeah.
just come and join me, and I'll give you everything that you could ever want. Kind of like Jesus standing up on the top of the mountain, trying to, Satan tempting him.
Yep.
It's like
That's always
there's
been a thing
definitely
with
that element
vampires.
in there.
Yeah, that's always been a thing with vampires.
And I
At
think
least
that's
since
why
they started making them more human.
I think that's why they called him the devil, because he was really manipulative. He was like
Yes.
a big manipulative.
He was a
saint.
bit.
What would
you
happen
know,
if you
like,
joined? Like it would be awesome. Like when you become one of us, it's great. You'll live forever.
no more heartache,
No
no
more heartache,
more
no more pain.
illness, No more pain.
Every-
yeah, but he
All
also
the kingdoms
gains
of
their
the world is yours.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he also
Basically.
gains all their memories, which I'm like, okay, that's a good way to manipulate as well. Like with the Asian couple, which by the way, I'm glad they didn't go full like, hello, what you want? You know, I was like, all right, because I think that would have
Right?
taken away from the movie. But the fact that they had Southern accents, I'm like,
It's like, okay, so
that
they're-
kind of draws me back.
like there's some. I think that probably more realistic. That's probably what they actually.
Oh
sound
yeah,
like.
yeah. They were probably like second or third generation.
Second or third
so,
generation.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. And but the fact that they still know Chinese makes me think that they were probably
Yeah.
second. Yeah. So with that, that was interesting. I thought that was very well done. And of course, even in that sequence with the I lied to you, you have some geisha dancers as well, which I thought was really well
A little
done.
bit of Asian culture in there.
Mm-hmm.
They got Asian
so I
culture,
thought
they
that
got
was well
Irish culture, they got black culture, and the only thing they had for Latino culture was they had a tamale shop right in the city square.
I saw that too.
I'm like, okay, there's a
Actually, I
tamale
don't even
shop.
know if that was. I don't even know if that was a tamale shop. Honestly, dude, I'm gonna be perfectly honest.
thought
I
the-
think that
Yeah,
was
'cause
just the
it
name.
No, it was just. I think
They
it was
said
just
like
the
we
name.
sell like liver
Catfish,
and all this
liver,
other stuff.
I
Yeah,
was like, okay.
there was no Hispanic
Cool.
representation in this. Yeah,
For-
you
for
just
the
have a little
record-
bit of Asian and a lot of black, and then
Cool.
that's it. Yeah.
Whatever. I
Here-
guess
here's
I guess
another
we
interesting-
weren't relevant back then. I guess.
Nah.
You're almost relevant. You're almost there until the Alamo, of course.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well,
Or
that
a
this would have
little
been far
after.
after the Alamo. So
Only
It
a
wasn't
handful-
until the Alamo where we started to realize, oh wait, no, they're
Nope, they're the bad
important.
guys.
yeah.
But anyways, another interesting fact is during the when they started to implement all these spirits from different cultures and eras, one of the drummers was Lars Ulrich, who was a Metallica drummer.
Lars was
And
in
so he was in
it.
there.
What?
Lars was in it. That's awesome. I love that.
What? Are you
So,
kidding me?
yeah.
Lars was in. I didn't even notice. Wait, he was in the like. In which
He was
sequence?
featured.
He was featured in
He
one
was
of the
featured.
sequences.
Yes.
Oh
and the
my
I
god!
lied to you sequence. He was there. Yeah, he was one of the drummers.
Great, now I gotta
So-
watch it all over again. I got. No, just
I already want to go
Oh.
see it again. Anyways, just give me an
Listen,
excuse.
listen.
You know.
I feel like this podcast is a little premature, honestly.
yeah.
Just there's so much depth to this movie. There's so many
Oh,
different
yeah.
characters and musicians that
Yeah.
honestly you could probably do a whole deep dive and analysis.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
dude.
into
I
this
expect
movie,
new rock
so-
stars to get on this. Heavy spoilers, and I'm gonna watch every bit of it whenever it comes out on disc. So I mean seriously, I think that this film does have a lot of nuance, which I would argue a lot of Ryan Coogler films do. Maybe not so much with like Black Panther or Wakanda Forever, or like anything he did with Marvel, but like his Creed movies have a lot of nuance and elements to it. And I would argue Fruitville Station, which is his first time he ever worked with Michael B. Jordan. I think like out of almost all of his films, he's worked with Michael B. Jordan to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue that he's worked with Michael B. Jordan in almost every single one of his films. Hands down, I mean, this guy is becoming easily one of my new favorite directors. Now, of course, I could hear people saying like, "Oh, it sucks that the only white person was a female," and like I'm like, okay, look, if you're gonna go into that element of it, fuck you.
Well,
This
no,
is
I
this
mean,
is a different movie. Like,
he's a black director, just like Jordan Peele. He's also a black director, and they want to implement their culture into their films, which I get. As a Latino director, I also like to implement my culture into my films. Granted,
and
I'm
then
not
he
gonna
puts
be-
my pasty ass in there.
But granted, I'm not just gonna be like making everyone speak Spanish. Don't get me wrong, I would love to make a Spanish film, but at one point, make Latinos the main character or have Latino culture really.
Me hablo muy poquito español. Me hablo muy poquito.
All right. Only from visiting my house a couple of times.
No, I knew that
Yes.
Spanish before I visited your house, dumbass.
Nope. But okay, so then you used it when you started getting to my house.
I started using it with your grandmother because you told me your grandmother mostly speaks Spanish.
Exactly.
Or so that's part of the reason why I started using it.
But yeah, but I think that people saying like, oh, he only does black movies. Like, see, I get like, it's Spike Lee who his movies I kind of don't like because his movies are really seem like.
Though to be fair, Black Klansman was done really, really well. I will
Okay.
agree with that.
But it
and
just
Boys
seems
to the Hood is pretty good.
like his movie really seems like this is for black people only. Like.
I agree. I
Like,
think definitely, especially
because-
with Boys to the Hood or Boys in the Hood. I
only
think that
black
was a big
people
one. Yeah.
will understand this, and if other people watch it, this is my life, and I'm like, okay, I get that, but You should like Jordan Peele. Like his movies don't like. Yeah, it's all black cast. It has black culture, but it's not only derivative to just a black audience. It's to everybody.
Exactly, and
So
I
that's
feel
why
like Ryan Coogler does that as well.
does,
Ryan
clearly,
Coogler, Fruitvale Station, I would argue, is more akin to like Boys in the Hood and a lot more
okay.
like Spike Lee, because that one is more of a like it's set in the ghetto. It's it's that kind of story. So I would argue that yeah, you could technically make that argument, but with like the vast majority of his other films, honest to God, no, I don't feel that. I feel like it's more accepting to general audiences. And this one definitely, I think, is definitely. I mean, obviously, do not take your kids to this. This is a hard R rating. There is sex. There's no nudity, but there's sex. There's smoking. There's swearing. There's shitloads of blood, shitloads of violence. At least towards the end. And like I would argue, it's almost over the top with some of the blood effects. I was like, okay, I don't think if you actually stab somebody right there that it would actually spurt like that. To that degree, at least for that long.
Yeah, but if it's a monster movie, you go big or go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. And I was very appreciative of the fact that a lot of the gore was saved towards the end. That was really well done. Again, making it more Dusk Till Dawn-esque,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even just from like even before you get to the vampires, the rest of the movie is still because I think the vampires are only like 30 to 40 minutes of worth of the movie. It's the climax.
Yeah, it's past the midpoint of the film. Yeah, past the midpoint because the midpoint is is when the
juke joint opens.
The juke joint opens up, and they're partying and everything. That's the midpoint. That's what we're all waiting for until something else happens and ruins everything.
Yeah, and I think it's like maybe 20, 30 minutes later. That's when
something
the
like that.
show up. Yeah. So, and I mean, this is a bit of a long movie. I will agree with that, but I honestly didn't feel it because I was so invested in the story. I really was. I was very deeply invested. There was even a few characters I'm like, okay, maybe they're not going to make it out. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, they didn't make it. That fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Because you really grow to like a lot of these people. Slim was one of my favorite side characters.
Totally.
I loved him. He was hilarious.
Yeah, Slim was good.
He had some good comedic moments in that. I'm not even gonna lie. And oh man, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but I've seen him in some other stuff, and he does a really good job.
I've seen him in something else, or he just looks like another actor I've seen.
He does kind of look a little bit like Ving Rhames. I will say that. Yeah, I could see where that might be confusing your brain a little bit, but other than that, I mean, still a very well done cast, especially from Miles Caden. I mean, holy shit, dude! I see best actor nominee. Honestly, I really do. Like that was done really really well. So, from that, I mean, I hands down, I don't think now. Of course, a lot of people are talking about like the box office of it. It's like, oh, it's only made $60 million in its opening weekend, but it cost $90 million before marketing to make. Meaning, realistically, it's probably gonna need like 120 to maybe $130 million to make. Which, granted, the marketing wasn't really that big for this. I didn't see a whole lot of push.
Yeah, I just saw like
there's like maybe 2 trailers, and that's about it.
And I saw like literally, I just walked down to the living room and I saw my grandma watching her Spanish news, and they were talking about Sinners.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely going to be a word of mouth movie, and I'm very happy with that. This is definitely more of an original movie. It's not based off of anything, which was really well done. I mean, aside from like the vampire lore, but that's not the only. Yeah, exactly. That's not necessarily like specific to one thing.
Yeah.
Would I absolutely call this a horror movie?
It's hard to say.
I would say it's more of like a historical thriller with horror elements. I would argue that. Like Dusk Till Dawn could theoretically be called a thriller.
Would you call it a psychological thriller?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a psychological thriller.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go that far either.
It's not trippy enough to necessarily be a psychological, or it's not like fucking with you mentally enough. Yeah. There is psychological elements in it, and that is where some of the horror comes into, but I wouldn't outright call it psychological horror. If you want to go for psychological horror, watch Suspiria. Watch... anything from Dario Argento. The Shining. Yeah, that's a good psychological horror movie.
Probably the most famous one, yeah.
Good shitload of A24 films. Yeah. So, I wouldn't outright call this psychological. I would definitely call this a thriller, though, for sure. This is definitely a thrill movie. It's a thrill ride. And I know that for those people that are like, oh, it's like From Still Dawn, so it just goes straight to like badass action and comedic moments. I'm like, no, not really.
Not really. It's kind of like
It's not one movie and then here's movie 2. It's not that.
uh,
It's more gradual. It
it is
does
pretty
kind of
gradual.
blend in together. So I would argue that it definitely doesn't like come right the fuck out of nowhere.
And
Like
it's not.
it introduces you to.
Yeah, and it's not like a fun kind of Dust Till Dawn esque kind of moment. It's very like dark and depressing kind of moments of like.
I
of,
would
like,
say if
realizing.
Dusk Till Dawn was like Penny Dreadful, then you have an idea of what this is like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Crimson Peak. That's a better movie interpretation. Like that kind of not slow burn, but like that gothic tone to it.
I guess the gothic, because really like with most vampire films, like, or at least in the action ones, they're always like fun and like yo, like nice kill. But then with this one, it's like it's kind of depressing. Like with,
A little
with
bit,
this whole,
yeah.
because literally the moment before the vampires start coming in, there was like this moment with the brothers where Smoke and Stack are talking to their girl. No, Smoke was talking to Sammy, and then Stack was talking to his girl. And I could understand because for some reason, like the music was playing like a little bit over them, and I couldn't hear what they're saying. But I can tell that there was this emotional turmoil that they're both trying to deal with. And like,
Yeah, he's basically saying like, look, I'm cool with you playing with us tonight, but you're a preacher. You can put songs into.
That's what it was,
You can make those. Yeah, yeah. And he's like, no, I love blues music. If if you're gonna try and stop me, you might as well. He's like, look, if I ever find out that you play at another joint, I'm gonna kill you myself. He's like, well, then you better kill me right now.
and he was ready.
That's
to.
exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you better kill me right now. He's like, I'm a soldier. You just gave me an order. Like, that was a really well done scene. Now, Benji, I know you said when we were walking out, you're like, the dialogue was a bit much.
Yeah, I
like
can
you feel
say,
like
yeah.
the writer liked his writing a
loved
little
his
bit too
writing
much.
A little too much, because a lot of the writing really lingered on, especially at the epilogue. Because, like, okay, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, I get it. Let's move on a little bit. Let's move on. We can go on.
Oh man, you will never fucking complain about that shit again until I show you Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Oh baby, you want to talk about a long ass epilogue? Dalton knows what I'm talking about,
I do.
and I'm gonna
watched
show you
Star
the
Wars.
extended cut. I'm gonna show you the 4-hour version. Yeah, you can say that all you want. I think you'll actually like the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you.
We'll see.
Anyways, any other final thoughts? Any nitpicks?
Honestly, I didn't have anything to nitpick about.
I didn't
I-
really either.
Only
I mean,
just
the only
how they turned the other people into vampires, like they get bit. I'm like, that's not so much.
It was
of a
off screen.
lore. Well, it's
Yeah.
because biting per someone. I don't. That's not exactly the. Well, because yeah, there is like some folklore on being bit by a vampire turns you to a vampire, but that's leaning more towards werewolves, where like the vampire lore, it's really
Kind of blurs a little bit together.
Yeah, but I was expecting them to drink the blood of the vampire, because that's how it's like a lot of movies have always.
Some
done.
movies have done that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But Dusk Till Dawn was different. They didn't have to drink the blood of the vampire.
that's
They
true,
just got
yeah.
bit. So I think they're going for like more Dusk Till Dawn rules, more of like the popcorny type of, the popcorn type of vampires. So like Renfield was a perfect example. He didn't
Yeah.
have to drink his blood.
Well, actually, no.
Well, in the lore he did, yes, but
In the lore, yeah, because keep in mind, Renfield is off of the Bela Lugosi Dracula, and I guess
Yes.
because I've been watching all the Universal monster movies, like, leading up to watching this, so I was like waiting for someone to like drink the blood of the vampire. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how they turn. But yeah, because Renfield, he actually drank Dracula's blood.
right. Yeah, that's different. But I'm talking about like anybody else that got turned into a vampire. They didn't have to drink Dracula's blood.
But no, they all turned from being bit.
Yeah. So there's that element to it as well. From that, I mean, I really had no nitpicks, honestly.
Yeah,
this
other
is
than
this is hands down. I would like there is a little bit of a pacing issue. I would argue towards the beginning. It's a little quick jumpy, that kind of thing. It's a little bit. I'm not saying it's overt. I'm just saying it's like, okay, so this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and it's like, okay, I get we're trying to like speed run to the idea. Like I get it, a lot can happen in a day. It wasn't bad. It was just, it's like, okay, it's a little jumpy, and then whenever we finally get to the juke joint, it finally kind of chills out a little bit. Yeah. But hands down, I mean, the music alone, I told you guys, and I think you guys both agree with me. It's like, yeah, I kind of want to buy the vinyl for this movie.
Yeah,
I want to actually get it and like post it on my wall. Yeah, it's a really good soundtrack.
It really is.
It's a fantastic soundtrack, especially if you're a blues fan. You're gonna love this soundtrack. And Dalton, any final thoughts?
I mean, I think we've pretty much summed it up.
All right. Well, I say we go ahead and end it with our ratings. Benji, since you're the guest, we'll go ahead and give you a rating.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Like I'm not praising it as like the best movie of all time, but it definitely is the best movie of the year so far.
Definitely, hands down so far.
I would definitely watch it again, but wait till the year is over, and then I'll probably give it a 10 out of 10. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what else comes out this year.
Yep.
I feel like this is definitely a cultural film. Like, this would be something I would show. Like, I go to a church that is predominantly African American. And so that would be the kind of film I would show them. I'd be like, hey, guys, look, this is a really cool film to watch. I think you guys would really connect with that. So, yeah, I would agree. Like, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I definitely give it anywhere from a 9 to a 9.5. This is damn near perfect for me. It's been a while since I've seen a movie that's like that, at least on the big screen. I would argue I enjoyed it just as much as I enjoy Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's hands down one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies. I love Raiders, but Raiders has a bit of an issue. I would say Indiana Jones Last Crusade is like damn near perfect. Benji, would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I mean, like comparatively to any new movie that I've seen in theaters recently, I can compare it to Nope. That movie was amazing.
Nope was damn near perfect. I agree with you on that. Yeah, if you want to go for
take notes, Disney.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Nope was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There's a reason I have that movie on 4K, and I'm probably gonna get this movie on 4K. Dude,
me too. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy this movie as soon as it comes out. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. And if they have a really dope ass steelbook, I think that would be pretty cool too.
I think this is going in my horror collection though. I think I'm gonna put this in my.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll put this in the realm of horror, but it's more of a thriller than anything. I would argue
it's a monster movie.
Yeah, it's a monster movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen Shape of Water is technically a monster movie. I wouldn't put that in the horror section.
That's true. Yeah, it's also true. Or a creature feature, I guess, like Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I would argue it's more akin to Jurassic Park. It has the horror elements, but it's definitely more meant to be like entertaining.
Yeah.
And I mean, and what's crazy, last little bit, even though like the vampires don't come in till very later, I was still heavily invested in this, like setting up the juke joint and everything else like that. I was still heavily invested, and the fact that they get so much character out of the way so early on, and you just immediately connect with these characters, that's takes talent. I think that was done very, very, very well. So, yeah, I think that's it for me. Any final thoughts, guys?
Nope.
No. All right. Well, this has been another episode of Shad and the Resman with our special host, Awseombenboy711. Be sure to check out Feature Freaks, and once again, be sure to check out his channel. I think probably by the time that this video comes out, the Grimm's Brothers movie will be out on YouTube as well.
Case of Grimm Brothers. Yep.
Yeah, the Case of Grimm Brothers. Yeah, so I believe that will be out as well by the time that this episode is out. If my math is correct here. And we will be sure to leave a link into the description, and we will go from there. But that being said, this has been Shad and the Resman. I've been Shad.
And I'm the Resman.
And we'll see you all later. Godspeed.